Welcome to the show. Fire prevention has been in the foreground of public safety within communities for hundreds of years. Here at home, the Hagerstown Fire Department is committed to improving the quality of life through fire prevention, fire education, fire suppression, and rescue. Tonight, we're pleased to welcome Hagerstown Fire Chief Steve Lohr to talk to us a little bit about fire safety and the fire system within the city of Hagerstown. Steve, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. So what we'd like to do, if it's okay, is we're going to go around the table and just ask some basic questions. And Ron, would you start us out?
Steve, I think a lot of people are wondering, how large is the Hagerstown Fire Department?
Well, currently we're protecting a city of about 40,000 people, 12 square miles, out of 5 firehouses and a headquarters battalion office. We have 5 engine companies or pumpers, 2 ladder trucks, and we have a volunteer company that staffs a special unit in the north end at the Antietam Fire Company. Total complement is 76 career people, and we have about 30 responding volunteers. Now, the administrative volunteers are in greater number than that, but we have about 30 that participate in responding to incidents.
Now, you started in a fire company next door to Hagerstown called Funkstown.
Yes,
as
I
a
did.
volunteer. You went to Montgomery County. How many people were you with in the Montgomery County Fire Department?
Well, when I first went to work in Montgomery County, we were about a 550 member department. When I left in December of 2014, we were about 1,170 and about another 200 civilian employees.
And how many of them are volunteers, or are they all paid?
Well, they have, in addition to that number, about 300 or so active volunteers throughout Montgomery County as well.
You had mentioned the administrative volunteer level. Do you know what that number is? And what types of things do they do?
Well, they participate in managing the individual volunteer companies. They assist in raising funds. Some people who have aged out or timed out from active firefighter duty continue to contribute in ways that don't require the physical stamina and exertion and or the requisite certifications and training to be an active firefighter. It's one of the things that has changed certainly in my career from, as Ron explained, the days when I first joined Funkstown Volunteer Fire Company as a young 16-year-old to now.
Okay. Ken?
So there's a lot more to the fire department than just fighting fires. There's also a rescue component and working hand in hand with EMS. Can you speak a little bit about that?
I'm happy to. So I would say that every responding agency's first mission is what I call prevent the 911 call. Community risk reduction in any form we can, whether that's teaching a citizen how to perform hands-only CPR, whether it's checking someone's smoke detector, whether it's making sure they're educated 2 ways out of their home should fire strike. All of these things contribute to what I call preventing the 911 call. We are absolutely blessed here in Washington County to have the Children's Safety Village. It is by far, and I've traveled this country far and wide in my various roles over the years, one of the greatest programs I've ever seen, where every single second grader, now for a generation, if you consider a generation 25 years, goes through a mandatory training safety curriculum that sticks with them for a lifetime. Now, in addition to that, one of the things that's changed from those days when I was a young volunteer, fill out an application, membership either approved you or did not. You jumped on the back step, you participated in any way you could, and you trained, evolved, and some people did a lot of that, some people did a little of that. You know, the fire service has evolved into what I would describe as an all hazards mission. You know, hazmat, EMS, technical rescue, confined space, all of these things that, you know, as we said here tonight, we're coming off the heels of celebrating the, not celebrating, it's a poor choice of words, 16th anniversary of the 9/11 terrorist attacks. That changed this country forever, but it also changed the role of the first responder forever. Our military, our firefighters, EMS providers, and law enforcement officers are the nation's first responders. And when people get in trouble, they've been taught, we have taught them, dial 911. Somebody's coming to help you.
So you mentioned the level of training. What training facilities do we have here in Hagerstown? Where do our firefighters get their training?
Well, largely in Hagerstown, Washington County, we rely upon the University Systems of Maryland, and specifically a subset of the University of Maryland called the Maryland Fire Rescue Institute, which has been around for decades, that provides training opportunities for volunteers across the state of Maryland. Most large metropolitan departments supplement that training in some way, as we do here in Hagerstown. We have a facility not too far from here. We could hit it with a rock if you had a good pitching arm. And training tower, burn building, props for tanker and gas fires, those kind of things. So I'm happy to report that the county has initiated actions to purchase ground down close to Roxbury to begin formulating a joint fire rescue training area that's available not only to volunteer companies in Washington County, but hopefully the city of Hagerstown as well.
Okay.
Chief, firehouses. Firehouses are rather strange in Hagerstown. At one time there were, 4 pretty much in the core of the town. What determines, and why does volunteers own a lot of the fire departments as far as buildings? And at what point will they all be taken out of downtown and moved out to be more accessible?
Well, I think your first question is easily answered. Like communities across America, firehouses were located based upon the capacity of a team of horses to run 8 blocks. That's about as far as they could go. So if you look at those old stations and think about how things evolved, with one exception, they could run in 8 blocks in any direction and cover the city. In the 1800s, early 1900s, that was a good response plan. One exception, Western Enterprise in the West End, was really cut off from the rest of the city because of the railroad tracks. And then when they become elevated, that improved things there at the overpasses near Burhans Boulevard. So now there's, like everything, very sophisticated mathematical formulas, response time based on GIS and all that would allow us to better position firehouses for basic deployment and coverage. Do we need as many? It's debatable. Do we need them in the places they are and have been traditionally? That's the best way to light a fire that I know, is just to open up that conversation. But like a lot of things, they are conversations we need to have. I'm proud to report in the city that previous leaders had moved the Antietam Fire Company to Potomac and Manila on their own, self-initiated. The Junior Fire Company moved from the 100 block of North Potomac Street out to Eastern Boulevard to improve deployment and coverage. In my tenure here, we relocated one of the ladder trucks that was downtown to the Eastern Boulevard station to make sure we had better coverage over the city. So we're always looking at opportunities like that to improve, and we'll continue to look at those. Pressured by the economic reality of coming out of the Great Recession, and figure out how we can do things better and more efficiently with either the same or less resources.
You had mentioned 30 active, I'm assuming responding volunteers, I think is
Yes.
the term you used. Is that enough? Do you need more?
We do need more. So we're always looking for young people and people who are willing to invest the time. Listen, it became a passion for me very early in life, but for someone to join a volunteer fire or rescue agency now and stay in it for the long haul, you're asking for a commitment that is extraordinary. So these folks should receive all the accolades they can get. Basic fire training just to ride the rig now, 30 hours. You're following up by 2 firefighter classes sponsored by MIFRE or locals that will exceed over 100 hours. You want to be an EMT, deliver emergency medical services well over another 130 hours. This is just classroom practical training without participating in any other activities. We train twice a week here in the city, volunteer-friendly hours to be able to give sets and reps to our volunteers and encourage them to stay in the game. But you know, we're competing against every other thing on planet Earth for their time,
right.
including their families, trying to go to school. Most folks I know are working 2 jobs to get by. It is really difficult for volunteers in the year 2017.
And you said you have 70 professional, full-time, paid, what I'll call paid?
67 actually.
67?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
And is that number adequate in your view? I don't want to get too political, so.
No, I don't want to be political, but anybody that's heard me speak on this matter is, you know, firefighting is a team sport. And there are accepted standards for how to manage those teams. Anything less than 3 in a company is considered substandard. And I don't care if you're in Timbuktu, Iowa, or New York City, New York. We staff our companies the majority of the time with 2 people.
Okay.
And it's just inadequate.
So that is something that needs to be continued to be looked at and hopefully budgeted for at some point.
It's absolutely one of my highest priorities for my tenure here as your fire chief.
Okay, interesting. And so you staff for 2, and then you have the volunteer who is by nature, you know, not as dependable. And I hate to say it that way. No, I don't want to say it that way. They have a choice.
Yeah, well, so you know, if you think about any staffing model, we're going to staff Antietam Cable FlipSide TV show with volunteers. You got to be ready in 5 minutes or less. You got to
Right.
be able to get there.
Right.
You need a whole bunch of them to make up for that 24-hour coverage, right?
For the fact that they can't always be there. That's how I should say
That's
that.
exactly right. So one of my goals is to try to assemble these people, and rather than commit to every time period in a block of time during the week, give me 4 hours, give me 14 hours every Tuesday night, every Wednesday night, every Saturday day, and then I can supplement that. I can make sense out of that and say, look, you know, in one location in particular, the company is doing very well. It is rare that company turns out with less than 3 people because the volunteers are working in that direction. Unfortunately, we don't have that everywhere.
So stay tuned with us, because coming up we will continue our conversation with Steve Lohr. We're back in 3 minutes.